He never picked up a gun for glory. Our aim, he said, is not to kill people. It's to destroy a system. What kind of love survives bombs, betrayal, and exile? What kind of courage drives two white South Africans to fight a system that protected them? To risk their children, their future, and their lives for a people who were never meant to be their equals. This is not just a love story. This is war. This is the story of Joe Slovo and Ruth First, a couple who turned their backs on privilege to become the fiercest enemies of apartheid. He was the general. She was the voice. Together, they became lethal. But the state had a plan to silence them. One would fall. The other would rise. Stay with us, because this ends with a bang, literally. Joe Slovo wasn't born in South Africa. He arrived as a refugee. Born in Lithuania in 1926 to a Jewish family escaping persecution. He arrived in Johannesburg as a child, already familiar with fear. Ruth First was South African by birth, born in 1925 to immigrant Jewish parents. Her father co-founded the Communist Party of South Africa. They met at Wits University. He was fire. She was focus. Together, they rejected the safety of their whiteness. They chose the Communist Party. They walked into the fire. But turning on privilege comes with a price. Their phones were tapped. Their home raided. Their names landed on government watch lists. Therefore, they didn't just resist apartheid. They declared war on it. And the state took notice. Joe Slovo joined Umkhonto we Sizwe MK in 1961. Not just as a member, but as its first chief of staff. He believed words alone wouldn't break apartheid. Action would. He trained soldiers, drafted strategy, planned attacks that shook the regime. But he never picked up a gun for glory. Our aim, he said, is not to kill people. It's to destroy a system. Meanwhile, Ruth First wielded her pen like a sword. As a journalist, she exposed prison torture, labor exploitation, and secret police networks. She published names. She leaked documents. She made the government bleed through headlines. But truth-telling comes at a cost. In 1963, Ruth was arrested under the 90-day detention law. No charges, no trial, total isolation. Therefore, she became the first white woman detained under apartheid. A badge she wore with silent fury. After her release, Ruth fled to London. Joe later followed, and together they raised their daughters between revolution meetings, exile life, and whispered threats. But they didn't retire. They regrouped. Ruth taught at universities. Joe ran MK operations from Lusaka. They met with exiles, plotted underground routes, coordinated international support. They were untouchable until they weren't. August 17, 1982. Ruth opens a brown envelope in her office at Eduardo Mondlane University in Mozambique. It explodes. The South African government had sent her a letter bomb. Her body was torn apart. Her voice silenced. Her pen shattered. But her death didn't end the fight. Therefore, it reignited it. Joe Slovo, now more dangerous than ever, declared, "Her blood is on their hands, but her fire lives in us." Joe didn't break. He rebuilt. He masterminded Operation Vula, smuggling weapons and leaders back into South Africa. The government feared his name more than his bombs. But when the walls of apartheid finally cracked, Joe did the unthinkable. He chose peace. He sat at the negotiation table, opposite the men who killed his wife. He pushed the ANC to accept the sunset clauses, ensuring a peaceful handover of power. Some called him a sellout. Others called him a savior. But Joe knew this. Revenge can destroy a nation, but justice can build one. In 1994, Joe Slovo became South Africa's Minister of Housing under Mandela's new government. The man who once lived in hiding now helped design homes for the free. Joe Slovo died of cancer in 1995. Not in exile, not by a bullet, but in a democratic South Africa he helped create. He never remarried. Ruth First remains buried in Maputo. Her grave, a silent scar of a voice too dangerous to be allowed to live. Together they gave everything, their family life, their safety, and one day, their forever. So what do we learn from Joe and Ruth? That privilege can be weaponized for good. That justice isn't black or white. It's right or wrong. And that love isn't just romance. It's choosing the same revolution over and over again. They didn't have to fight, but they did, because silence was never an option. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share and subscribe for more untold true history stories.